Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rockin' Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Quentin Corpuel. This is Before the Box Score. We are going back into the portal. We're talking more portal acquisitions. We're talking movement of players because that's what you talk about in the middle of December instead of the bowl games that are happening. Quentin, you're back from you're done covering the basketball game. How are you doing tonight?
Yeah, doing great. An unexpectedly thrilling basketball game against Jacksonville State. Mizzou was able to pull that one out. But I'm doing real well. Been able to catch up on sleep after a pretty busy finals week. Back home in Maryland. Been back home for a few days. Excited to go to Nashville in T-minus, I believe, 13 days. I guess a little less than 13 days. Yeah. So a lot to look forward to with Mizzou football, but a lot happening in the present day with the transfer portal, as you said, and I'm excited to break it all down.
Yeah. Now, because we do have our little student boy on the show, I have to be doting dad. How did we do on finals? Are we feeling good about classes?
Yes. Feeling pretty good about classes. Did generally well on finals. Some ups and downs, but I would say the ups outweighed the downs. Okay. So yeah, I would say I was pleased with myself on how I performed with finals, considering that I did put the most academic work in over the past couple of weeks of school than I did not like I wasn't the entire semester. But I was
good cover.
I was hitting the sixth gear last couple of weeks, and thankfully it paid off. So I am proud of myself.
Excellent. No, we can't afford you to be flunking out, or else we can't keep you around. So that's good.
That would be bad.
That's good. All right. Well, let's talk about some other grades. Some grades as far as transfer portal goes, because that's. It's just we are in full portal season, and I think. This portal go around has been unique. I feel like the results have been more mixed than we've usually experienced as Missouri fans, and it's letting people feel some big feelings, which of course is fine. But we're here to talk through it and figure out if this is really something that we need to freak out about. Now, last time we did the show, obviously Nathan Hurst was with me. We talked about the fact that Williams-Nwaneri had entered the transfer portal with a no contact clause. We all had a pretty decent idea of what that meant and where he was going, but it's official since we were last on last Wednesday. Williams-Nwaneri transferred to Nebraska, where his old high school coach is currently on staff. Quentin, Hurst and I talked about the optics and the effect on the roster. You weren't around. Let's hear your take. What were your thoughts on, number one, Nwaneri hitting the portal in the first place, and number two, winding up at Nebraska?
Yeah, so him hitting the portal in the first place, initially, that was pretty surprising because with a guy as highly touted out of high school as he was, even if the depth chart along the defensive line was pretty muddy compared to other positions on Mizzou football, you're the number one recruit in the country. The path to playing time, at least on paper, might seem a little bit easier than a lot of other underclassmen. But the other side of that is that, yes, the depth chart along the defensive line was going to be pretty muddy entering 2025. And yeah, he got some opportunities in 2024. He made the most of them, I believe. During the UMass game, was able to pick up a sack. Didn't really play a whole lot until some guys started going down along the defensive line. Then his snaps increased. Once he did enter the portal and I saw that no contact clause, I also had a pretty good feeling that he was at the very least knowledgeable of where he was going to go. And obviously that ended up being at Nebraska with an old coach. So in that sense, I understand it. But at the same time, it's a similar idea as somebody like Kewan Lacey. His path to touches was probably going to be a lot easier on paper than Williams-Nwaneri's. But at the same time, I think Mizzou's still going to be decent next year, even if the Tigers do drop off from 2023 and 2024. So I will say, at least for Nwaneri, it was slightly surprising. Not nearly as surprising as somebody like Kewan Lacey, though.
Yeah. And if you haven't known, Kewan Lacey entered the portal and then immediately committed to Ole Miss. So that's where he's ending up. And there's some feelings around the fact that, here's a guy who had 3 years left to play, had been getting snaps at the position. Now, not as many as everybody else. He was a clear 4, but still he was getting them. Had some moments with Mizzou. Had a clear runway, like you said, to playing time next year. Hits the portal and then immediately goes to Ole Miss. And again, feelings were had. I'll just say this is part of the game. This is the modern college game. If you enjoyed the fact that Caden Green entered the portal and almost immediately went to Mizzou without taking a trip, you're okay with Kwan Lacey doing the same for Ole Miss. That's how this game is played. And Ole Miss, they are they like their feeder programs. I know they raid Arkansas, like the University of Arkansas, every single year. They pull pieces out of teams that have no business in thinking that this player is going to go. But that's what Ole Miss does. Behind Lane Kiffin, they point their money cannon at some key players and some key additions. They go young, they go high upside athleticism, and they're making another run for the playoff apparently. So, I mean, is there any salt around Lacey leaving, or are you comfortable with the fact that this is the modern game?
It's a double-edged sword. I mean, the transfer portal, especially in the last few years, if before it was just your regular run-of-the-mill merry-go-round, for example, I think the modern transfer portal is something like the Trabant from The Sandlot. If you've ever seen that one, Nate Edwards. I think that was more your era than mine.
I was a kid when it came out. Yeah.
That ride, I think, is one of many analogies you could use to describe the modern transfer portal. 1 second, you're having a great time chewing tobacco with your friends. It's a beautiful summer night out on the town. And then the next, it's not as great of a night. And so I think that's exactly what's happened with Mizzou. Yeah, they were able to get Caden Green without a visit. And Oklahoma fans were understandably pretty upset about that. And now Ole Miss, as you said, gets another high upside, high athleticism running back. I mean, I've got a University of Miami t-shirt under this black hoodie I'm wearing right now. Henry Parrish. Pretty good for Miami when he was there, and then bam, goes to Ole Miss. So yeah, as you said, this isn't the first time that this has happened. And as you said, I was pretty surprised when Lacey entered the portal, just because the running backs entering next year, it was going to be Tavoris Jones and then the two freshmen, Marquise Davis and Brendan Haygood, because Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll, they're out of eligibility. And from what we had seen, at least what I'd seen from Kwan Lacey this year, I was really impressed. I was really excited about not just what I saw in 2024, but what he could become in 25 and beyond. But unfortunately for those who wanted Lacey to stick around, that will not happen, and they will have to watch him do it at another SEC school.
Yeah. Anthony Mathis, ZOU buddy. He says Mizzou not going for big transfers, but I love that they are getting guys that they want to be here. Yeah, I mean, obviously you want guys to want to be here, and if they don't want that, then you don't want them here. It's a simple concept, but you don't want to hold on to somebody who doesn't want to be there. That's not going to be good for anybody. So no, I'm with you on that. Following Kwan Lacey into the portal, actually, I think the same day it was Aiden Glover, Mizzou's freshman quarterback. They're the quarterback that they pulled from the last recruiting class. Now, Aiden did not see the field. He was not going to see the field. He was he was kind of a backup option when Missouri whiffed on their first quarterback in the 2024 class. He was an out-of-state kid, and obviously Mizzou's hitting the portal for another quarterback, so it seems pretty apparent with the addition of Matt Zollers plus whoever they get through the portal that he was not going to see playing time here, and he is still in the portal. So just to recap, as far as what we have right now, and again, it's 8:50 on Tuesday the 17th, so this is when this data is coming out. We have 4 guys who have committed to other schools. Williams Nwaneri to Nebraska. Punter Orion Phillips went to Utah. Wish that would have worked out. Jalen Brown, who we talked about last week, went to South Carolina, and then Kwan Lacey is at Ole Miss. People who are still in the portal, you have Brody Bame, Will Safris, both of those were walk-ons, Mekhi Miller, Brayshawn Littlejohn, Philip Roche, Aiden Glover, and Gerald Lacey, who is the older brother of Kwan Lacey and a walk-on, is in the portal as well. So that's it. And if you're looking at as far as players being poached by blue bloods versus peer programs versus going down a level, I mean, right now, again, very odd, because most of the time, Mizzou players that go into the portal, they go down a level. This is so far as the most that they've had at a peer level at this point in the portal season since the portal season was a thing. So you're losing some high upside guys, and you're losing them to rival peer programs, which isn't great, especially South Carolina and Ole Miss. Portal's still open. We can still make moves, so it's going to be okay. Along those lines, quarterback was a big one. We talked about it last week. Talked about some options there. Miller Moss actually committed to Louisville, and so he will not be a Missouri Tiger. Now, I think the emotions around this one are a little bit different. The big thing to me is that this was clearly Eli Drinkwitz's number one quarterback. Well, I don't think he was mine. I like the kid. Obviously, he plays for my second team, but I don't think he was the best quarterback in the portal. But a lot of people wanted him, and Eli Drinkwitz made it very clear that he wanted him. And usually Eli gets what he wants, and he didn't get him. So I feel like the angst is more wrapped up around that rather than missing out on some big prospect. What was your read on Miller Moss not going with Mizzou?
Yeah, I think even if you didn't consider him the top quarterback in the portal, he was definitely amongst that upper echelon. And what also stings is that it seemed to be a two-team race between Mizzou and Louisville. Now, I don't think a lot of people think of Louisville as not even like a blue blood, but an upper echelon college football program. Like, I don't want to disrespect them at all. They've had a lot of really good years, including, I want to say, 2023, like they were in the ACC championship. This is a pretty solid ball club. But I think the sting would have been less if Mizzou had lost out to, I'm just making this up, Alabama or Texas or one of these big time schools that you could sit there and be like, oh, I see why Mizzou maybe lost there. Louisville, I think, a lot of people, especially in mid-Missouri, would probably think of Mizzou as a higher level program than Louisville. And so there's still a lot of quarterbacks out there, but the options are dwindling by the day. And now we're getting to a point where a lot of the quarterbacks in the portal still have 3 years of eligibility left, which could complicate things, especially when you have somebody like Matt Zollers entering the program as a freshman, who a lot of people would think is going to be the quarterback at some point, probably not in 2025, but starting in 2026, that becomes a viable option. Now you're probably going to bring in a guy with a lot of years of eligibility left. And so there's sort of a conflict there as, okay, what's the long-term option here? And I mean, even Drew Pine, I'll just throw his name in there because he's still on the team. Like, he still has multiple years of eligibility left, even though he started college when I was a junior in high school. Nope. And so, yeah, I think just the water gets a lot murkier as time goes on. And I think Mizzou would like to land on somebody relatively soon, especially as a lot of these, I guess, top tier quarterbacks are finding homes.
Well, I mean, and to that point, there's a message board poster who was on the same flight as Penn State's quarterback Bo Pribula, who leaked that out, and of course that's run around in Missouri circles. And so now we have this idea that Bo is on campus and he's visiting Mizzou. Again, this is a younger guy. This is a guy with many years left of eligibility, but he is a more mobile quarterback. He is a bigger quarterback. He came in for Drew Aller at Penn State as kind of a curveball quarterback, a change of pace quarterback, and he did very, very well. Really the story around him for me for the past couple of days was the fact that he mentioned in his announcement that he was in a terrible place because he knew that he was not going to get a real shot at playing quarterback next year for a playoff team, but that he had to go into the portal now or else there wouldn't be any spots left for him. So it's one of the few times where a player has acknowledged this calendar sucks. And he had somebody say it out loud who's in the industry, which was nice. But apparently he's on a visit here. What do you know about Bo? What do you know about what he did at Penn State? What are your thoughts of him potentially becoming Missouri's quarterback?
And to your point, I'll start with this about the college football calendar being less than ideal for guys in Bo Pribula's spot. This is exactly what happened to Malik Murphy last year at Texas. Texas is about to compete in the college football playoff. And I believe he also admitted, like, I didn't really have a choice here, being behind Quint Ewers and Arch Manning. It sucks. Like, it sucks for those guys because I'm pretty sure they don't want to do that. They would rather stay with their team and be a part of the team through the college football playoff, however long their team's run in the CFP lasts. But in terms of a Mizzou future, a potential Mizzou future, I think it's fun at the very least in relatively limited snaps. I'd say there was enough game tape to at least extract some takeaways. probably the most mobile quarterback Eli Drinkwitz would ever have, just from a natural mobility standpoint. He's got a lot of lightning in those legs, and he used it a lot in the limited time that he got at Penn State this year. As a passer, I saw flashes. Sometimes, especially as a freshman, that's all you really need to see is flashes, is at least some sort of small blueprint that tells a lot of people this could maybe work with enough time and enough refinement. So I think Bo Pribula would be a great get. Again, I just think that would complicate things with Matt Zollers, but they could cross that bridge when they get to it. I think they would probably just be happy to get somebody like Pribula who offers a ton of upside.
Yeah, I need to double check something here. We're doing this live, and I'm doing my homework live because we just kind of found out before we hit play here. Class of 22. Okay, so that means he redshirted in 22. He was a freshman in 23. He was a sophomore 24. So he would have 2 years, 25 and 26 next year, and then 2026. So that's not bad, actually. I thought he was younger than that.
We're like the U.S. government here. It's all about checks and balances. So thank you,
That's
Nate
right.
Edwards.
There you go. 6'2", 203. Not bad. Okay, here's something fun. He has run the ball more than he has passed it. Now, I'm not counting sacks in there. He's got a 2% sack rate. But okay, so this year he went 26 of 35, 74% completion percentage, 275 yards, 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. Very good. Passing success rate of 57%, also good. 2% sack rate, very good. The running stuff, 37 rushes, 248 yards, 4 touchdowns. See, that's the big one. 6.7 per rush, 62% success rate when running the ball. Yards before contact, 4.1. Yards after contact, 2.2. That's not great, but okay. Now, this isn't a Andy Koltanecki offense, which, if you don't know, is funky as hell. He was at Kansas the past couple of years. He's at Penn State this year. It's a lot of movement, a lot of misdirection. Not something that Mizzou really does all that much, other than like the pre-snap motion. So it would be a very different system that he would be coming in, but you would have that mobility that Brady Cook, we thought was going to have this year and didn't really show too much of. Okay. Understanding that the offensive scheme is going to be different. He's going to be asked to do different things. This kind of feels square peg, round hole, but it could work, right? We can make this work.
I'd say more like oval and a round hole.
Okay.
Like not like I'd say like square peg and a round hole. That's like Connor Bazelak in like an Army offense. Like that's square peg and a round hole. I think Kirby Moore would be able to work around it, especially as over the past couple of seasons, I think he has shown at the very least some willingness to mold his scheme around his personnel, which I love out of any coach or coordinator at any level. I don't love when coaches try to logjam a system around players that just don't really fit it, because the results are usually negative most of the time. I think that's a big reason why Mizzou, at least in 2023, skyrocketed in offensive production, because you do something like move Luther Burden in the slot. Now, 86% of his snaps are from the slot. That's his natural position. Like, that's just one example. And quarterback's a much different animal, because that is literally the center of your offense. And while there were definitely some QB run concepts, quarterback power, for example, that was run quite a bit last year, including the eventual game winner against Arkansas for Brady Cook. I think they could do it. I think they would at least try to make it work, and hope that Pribula's passing develops enough to where he can be a legitimate dual threat guy, which is, I think, would be the end goal. Because, I mean, it'd be great if he can run, but you're not going to be nearly as much of a threat to the defense if you can't pass it nearly as well. I didn't mean to go all like football 101. I didn't mean to go all elementary. But that's going to be the reality of the situation if Pribula does end up committing to Mizzou and he does end up becoming the QB1.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to read, what you do at one school with that personnel is going to be completely different when you go somewhere else. But the fact that he has 10.6 yards per completion, and what I would argue is a very clearly injured Brady Cook all year, had 12.3. It tells you a little bit about what the difference in passing acumen is going to be. Now, he did not get asked to throw the ball as much. Again, he was a change of pace quarterback more than anything. So who knows? But he's an intriguing prospect. He's intriguing, and he comes from a power program that plays in one of the more important conferences in the country, in the Big Ten. I'm intrigued.
I'd like it.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. At the very least, I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned slot receiver. We would be remiss if we did not talk about the fact that Mizzou acquired a new slot receiver in Kevin Coleman Jr. Holy cow. Okay, so when we rewind the clock and we go back to 2022, you had Luther Burden and you had Kevin Coleman. And Kevin Coleman was the number one player in the state of Missouri, and Luther Burden was the number one player in the state of Illinois because he was at East St. Louis, even though he was a St. Louis kid. And it seemed like Mizzou was not going to get both of them, right? That was not going to happen. They were not going to play on the same team. They both wear the number 3. It wasn't going to work out. So Kevin goes to Deion Sanders, Jackson State. Luther Burden comes to Missouri. And it seemed like, okay, yeah, Luther Burden is, he's a surefire NFL draft pick. He's one of the top players in the country, local kid. Like, if you can't get Kevin, boy, what a great consolation prize, and one of the best players in the country, one of the better receivers Missouri's ever had walk on campus. And I still believe that. I have grown a shine on Kevin Coleman because I saw him at Mississippi State versus Missouri. I was like, wow, he's balling out. And then you go back and watch old tape and you look at old stats. This guy eats in the slot. He has been effective since day one. He has actually outperformed Luther Burden almost every single year since they were both in college football. And now he's at Mizzou. Quentin, I am 100% bought in on the Kevin Coleman renaissance. What are your thoughts on him coming to Mizzou?
Yeah, it was always going to be tough to replace Luther Burden III, who I would argue, like, I've only been following Mizzou for a couple of years now. I would argue is easily a top 5 receiver that has ever come through the program.
Yeah.
Like, without a doubt.
Yep.
If there were any consolation prize this time around, Kevin Coleman is a pretty damn good consolation prize. As you said in your recruiting reset, this guy's basically a thinner Luther Burden.
Yeah.
And like Luther's ability to break tackles and yak it up super hard was a big part of what made him really good. Kevin Coleman may not be able to do that as effectively, but in terms of, as you said, production, I'm really excited. This is a huge get for Mizzou. I believe this is Coleman's 4th school in 4 years.
4th school in 4 years, yes.
That's the Trabant. That's the new age of the transfer portal. You can do that now. But I think Mizzou is thrilled. They should be thrilled. I think this guy's going to be really fun. I'm really intrigued to see how Kirby Moore uses him, especially because Luther was lined up anywhere and everywhere, from the slot, occasionally the outside, sometimes in the backfield, a lot of times in motion. I think Kevin Coleman can fulfill those responsibilities. Can he end his Mizzou career with the same level of valor and glory and campus-wide respect that Luther did? That's going to be difficult considering that Luther had been in Mizzou for 3 years. He helped turn the program around, is electric, probably going to be a first-round pick, knock on wood. He's stuck with Mizzou through thick and thin. Like, that's just going to be really tough to replicate, especially because Coleman's only going to be there for a year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
barring injury,
barring injury, he will be at Mizzou for 2025 only. That is going to be impossible to replicate. What I think can be at least mostly replicated is Luther's production. That's a really big thing to say, considering everything I just said about Luther Burden. But I think Kevin Coleman can get there, and with the right quarterback, I think he can produce a lot in 2025. I'm really excited.
Yeah. And I hope he's not trying to be Luther 2.0. I don't think he is. I don't think the coaches are going to pitch him that way. I just hope that we as fans and him as a player just understand that Luther is him and Kevin is also him. He's Kevin, right? Like that's all he needs to be. And yeah, to your point, just replicate the production. We don't need the generational defining commitment. We don't need the, opening the floodgates for 4- and 5-star kids. We got that. We're done with that. Just be good on the field. And almost every year, he's been better than Luther on the field. So, like, okay, that's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. This offense needs a slot receiver and needs a gadgety guy to just throw it somewhere and get it to that guy. And that's what Kevin Coleman can be. Much like Mookie Cooper, he in his time at Louisville and Mississippi State, he moved around a lot. He took some runs. He got, he lines up in the slot almost, well, it's like 90% of the time at Jackson State, 76% of the time at Mississippi State. So like that's his place. The other difference is that he's a better punt returner than Luther Burden ever was. Cause number one, he catches the ball in the air. But at Mississippi State, he had 16 punt returns. He averaged 9.6 yards per return. You go all the way back to Gary Pinkel. He's like, hey, what do I want in a punt returner? Give me 10 yards. Give me a first down. And that's what Kevin Coleman does. He took almost 19% of his punt returns for 20 plus yards. Like, he's effective there. No touchdowns, right? But effective is good. I can't remember the last time Mizzou had a dynamic punt returner.
Marcus Murphy?
That might have been the last one.
Well, I mean, Brandon Kiley talked about it with Luther specifically, both when he committed and I think later on down the line of, hey, he could be awesome. He returned a very large chunk of his punts for touchdowns in high school. But when college came around, catching the punt proved to be difficult. And it's a big part of the reason why, Chris Abrams-Drain ended up catching a lot of punts in 2023 and why Daniel Blood, I believe, ended up doing so this year. Eli Drinkwitz mentioned Mizzou's unfortunate ability to pick up what he called trash yards, basically on punts when the returner would not field it. The ball would bounce 5, 10, 15 extra yards, not Mizzou's favor. Their punt return statistics over the past few years have been really bad, and it's not great for field position. And so I think if Kevin Coleman is able to average, you said 9.6 yards per return, that's
in the SEC.
A lot better than what Mizzou had been putting together over these past few years. Even though that may seem minute, especially considering that the program he would be walking into, that would mean a little more than minute.
I mean, this is an offense that's getting a hard reset. You want as many secret hidden yards as you can possibly get. And what Mizzou's done, even with the trash yards, they've done well by basically starting with better field position than their opponents. At least that's what they do in wins. So yeah, having a good punt returner, that's just extra, man. That's cherry on top. And Coleman's shown that he can do it in the SEC. So give him a shot. Give him a shot. I'd like to see it. But yeah, if he's just merely a great slot receiver, also go with that. I'll take that too. So we got some more portal coming in. I mean, we went through the stinky part of the portal, and we know that's all part of it. So let's get to the good stuff. Kevin Coleman was the first great thing that happened to us, and we're all very excited and very happy. And then we get to this week, and there's a guy. His Christian name is Santana Banner, which the way that comes out of your mouth is really fun. It's a lot of da-da-da-da-da-da. But then this guy goes by Beans. Beans. His nickname is Beans. We can call him Beans. Beans Banner. That is a gift. That is a tremendous nickname. His name is Beans. So Beans Banner. He's from Northern Illinois. I love this kid already. I did the recruiting reset on him. I took a look at his tape and I looked at his stats. He's a strong safety. He's listed as a strong safety for Northern Illinois. So whatever that translates to Mizzou system, that's what he'll be. I'm assuming he's going to be replacing Joseph Charleston, who's more on the strong safety side. But the thing about Beans is that he, number one, played a ton of snaps, 545 snaps, which is more than anybody other than Drayden Norwood. 54 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 3 run stuffs, 3 passes broken up, an interception, and a forced fumble. Like, that is a redshirt freshman doing that. Very active defender on a pretty gnarly G5 defense in Northern Illinois. I am super stoked for the name Beans by itself, but the production and what it could be, I can't wait. What are your thoughts, Quentin?
No, the name thing was definitely a heat check. I saw Santana Banner, and I was like, wow, that's That's like a deep 3-pointer. And then I saw Beans. That's like pulling up from half court and swishing. Like, I was like, wow, I didn't think Santana Banner could be one-upped. Yet here we are with Mr. Beans Banner. Also, if I'm reading his bio correctly, a mechanical engineering major.
Okay.
Yeah. That is tough stuff. Especially with being a Division I athlete who commits a lot of time to playing their sport. So
I was say he's majoring in football now. So yeah.
Hey, good for Beans regardless.
Yes.
One of the things that makes me happy about this edition, along with several other additions that Mizzou has made, it's tough to get guys in the portal as young as Santana Banner is, who has also produced for at least one season. That is not easy to find. And they not only found it with him, they found it with a guy that we're going to talk about pretty soon, Josiah Trotter from West Virginia. I would love if Beans was good because we could talk about a guy named Beans a lot. And that makes me so overjoyed. Like, I am just overcome with even the potential of feeling the kind of joy I would feel to be able to talk about Beans in a positive light. But I don't know what your feelings on Joseph Charleston are in totality. I wouldn't call him incredible.
I mean, I think it took him a little bit to get going, but I did not really notice him all that much this year, other than the Arkansas game when he almost picked off that second to last pass.
That was awesome in its own right. I mean, Drink said it after the game that saved the game.
Yeah, it did.
Because that roll, Taylon Green, king of the rollout to his right, crossbody throws.
Yeah,
almost pulled off another one in crunch time. For the first couple of seconds, I thought he just threw it away from my view in the press box. But sure enough, I forget who the Arkansas receiver was, but he was getting ready to Willie Mays that thing. Yeah. And Joseph Charleston comes flying over, clubbed hand and all, and makes one of the more heroic pass breakups in recent Mizzou football memory.
That's a big one. I can't think of, and Trevez Johnson had one literally the next play, but that was a Hail Mary situation. Yeah, I mean, I thought Joseph Charleston, especially the fact that he broke both of his hands, I guess, this year, which is nuts to me.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's good for him. Isaac Sategna, that was the guy who almost caught the pass in the end zone.
That would have been a pretty epic bounce back from 2023 when a kickoff bounced off his face mask and Mizzou recovered. Then Brent Norfleet scored his second touchdown in the span of 11 seconds.
Yeah.
So in that right, I would have been happy for him. But the heroics of Joseph Charleston prevented that. And Mizzou
with two broken hands.
All happy. And I guess to round out this point, I think Beans can get there.
Yeah.
Now, do I think we have this bias because of how we have been introduced to him? Yeah, probably. But I think he can get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And Tigo, Beans would only be the second best safety name Mizzou has had this century. Of course, he's referring to Pig Brown. Yeah, there he goes. Pig Brown of the 07 team was a treasure. Yes. Cornelius was his Christian name, but he went by Pig. Pig and Beans. I mean, that's tough to beat. I don't know if Beans got his name because of the hill that he's worth or the place where he likes to punch dudes, but I am just very, very excited that he is on our football team, and I hope that he does that a lot.
I'm curious how that nickname came about, because sometimes the one event nicknames are cool, but sometimes it's like the relative calling you something for some very obscure reason, and that's sticking. That one's also pretty cool.
Yeah. I think that's how Pig got his. The other guys got like Greedy, and there's all sorts of fun names that some grandparent called you. So you'll have to figure it out, man. When you go to camp and you start talking to these guys, figure out how the hell he got named Beans, because it's great. But let's move on from Senior Beans. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Beans. Mizzou also got a duo of linebackers in the portal this week. We got Mekhi Baynor from Nebraska and Jeremiah. Oh my! I did it! Damn
You
it!
did it. You called your own shot. You called your own shot. You said you would do it. And
I
hey,
said
usually it's fortunately you did it. This time I can't say the same.
Josiah Trotter, son of Jeremiah Trotter. Whatever. We got two linebackers. They're great. What are your thoughts?
I'll start with Josiah Trotter from West Virginia, as you said, son of the great Jeremiah Trotter Sr., four-time Pro Bowler, one-time All-Pro. One of his kids is Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who's been really freaking good at Clemson. Josiah was injured for all of 2023, which would have been his freshman season at West Virginia. West Virginia people really believed that he would have played a lot in 2023 had he been healthy. And once he was fully recovered from injury, he was pretty good for West Virginia this past season. I believe almost 100 total tackles, a pretty sweet interception against Oklahoma State. That was of the toe tap variety of 37-year-old quarterback Alan Bowman. I'm just rounding up. I think he made a joke about it like yesterday or 2 days ago. So good for him. But again, same point as Beans. A lot of production, still very young. I believe Josiah Trotter has 3 years of eligibility left, and that is especially valuable considering that Mizzou is losing Corey Flagg Jr., Tristan Newson, and Chuck Hicks.
Also 37.
Also 37 years old. That's a huge get for Mizzou. Should slot into a starting role right away. I know the 2025 season is still very far away, but I'd be pretty surprised even with maybe some other portal additions if Josiah Trotter doesn't see the field a lot next season.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, you're losing those three. Now you do return Khalil Jacobs, who was injured about halfway through the year, who had been seeing significant snaps. I think he had, let's see here, he played in 6 games and he had 139 snaps. So that's pretty significant. You're also returning Nick Rodriguez, who filled in for Khalil Jacobs once he went down. And Nick had 7 games, 75 snaps. So not a ton, but he's there too. Jeremiah Beasley had 28 snaps. And then Brian Huff had 8. So you're adding Dante McClellan and Jason Keem. Josiah Trotter comes in with his 628 snaps. And then you have Mekhi Baynor. And this guy, he's from Nebraska. Now, this is an old guy. This is not some long-term play. This is a pure bridge backer where you're bringing him in for the experience to make sure you're not playing a bunch of second-year guys. And he's been good. I mean, he's not going to wow you. He's not going to blow you off the page, but he didn't play his 2021. That was his redshirt year. He didn't play his redshirt freshman year, but then he had 238 snaps in 2023 with 26 tackles and 3 tackles for loss. And then last year he was playing behind a really good inside linebacker and still managed to bring in 375 snaps, 48 tackles. So Baynor is a prototypical inside linebacker, just tackles, eat them up. He's hitting some dudes between 1 and 3 yards off the line of scrimmage. That's what he does. He does not get sent on pass rushes all that much. He did get a sack, but he wasn't sent all that much, about 33 times in his 300 snaps. So more prototypical inside linebacker who can play the pass lanes too. This is good. I mean, you needed probably 2 more, maybe even 3 more linebackers from the portal, and you got 2 this week. How do you feel about the linebackers at this point? Another one, or are you feeling pretty confident?
Probably another one would be good for Mizzou, but they've definitely gotten off to a good start with Trotter and Baynor. Emotionally, I think Mizzou people will really enjoy if you want to go back and look at the Colorado game from earlier this year. Mekhi Baynor says during a press conference that Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Raiola, the Nebraska quarterback, are not comparable. That was the subject of some talking heads on TV. I believe LaShawn McCoy and whoever else is on that show, they made a big segment out of it. And then Mekhi Baynor did something that Eli Drinkwitz has been very pro of since at least verbally 2023, standing on business. And that's exactly what Mekhi Baynor did in a win over Colorado. I think it was the opening kickoff. If it wasn't the opening kickoff, it was another kickoff. Mekhi Baynor flies down on special teams, lights a dude up, sets a tone. I believe he comes up with a big stop on either third or fourth down. Also had a couple of other really nice plays in that game. He very much stood on business in a win over a Colorado team that eventually became pretty good. And so from an emotional standpoint, Baynor's got that going for him. And also, as you said, production. I was going to be a little bit nervous as well if Mizzou was forced to play guys like Nick Rodriguez. And I guess if you want to throw Dante McClellan in there, more snaps than maybe a lot of people would have been comfortable with. Even though guys like Rodriguez definitely showed flashes last year, you would have rather had some veteran guys in there, especially along with Khalil Jacobs, who was already, I think, a pretty good linebacker, especially considering his familiarity under Corey Batoon entering this season with 2 seasons at Alabama or South Alabama, excuse me. And so I think those are 2 really big gets for Mizzou. I'm excited about what they can bring. I don't think they were great pass defenders, but correct me if I'm wrong, Nick Bolton wasn't an awesome coverage guy at Mizzou.
It's not what we wanted him to do.
And I don't think he's been an awesome coverage guy with the Chiefs, but he's really good at stopping the run and getting downhill. And I think Jacobs, Baynor, and Trotter can all do that at a fairly high level. So I think this is a pretty good start for Mizzou, but I think they're not done yet in terms of the second level of defense.
Yeah. The advice I would give is the advice I'd give to any human being on this planet. Figure out what you do well and then do that thing. I don't want my pass rusher playing pass lanes. I don't want that. I don't want my thumping tackler to go, drop back into coverage or rush the passer. I don't know. Do what you do well. Focus on the thing that you do well and then do that thing. That's what I want. That's why we recruit 140 kids to this team so we can rotate in and okay, let's get you out there. Now you wish everybody does everything well, but be good at something. Figure out what that is and be good at it. We got another question in the YouTube here. This one's from Anthony again. Do you all believe that signing a low amount but quality high school players, a low amount of high school players that are quality, will help with transfers? Do we care about high school anymore? What are your thoughts? Okay, let's go one at a time. Number one, yes, you need to save scholarships for transfers. That's just the name of the game. Past couple of years, this class had 17. I think last year had 21, and the year before that had 19, roughly. And you can bring in 35, I think, per recruiting class. I think that's what that is. Anyway, you need to save your scholarships for transfers too, because you're going to lose them through the portal. So you need to have them available too. And do we care about high school? Yes, Anthony. Yes, we do. Yeah. You cannot build a team through the portal. I think if you look at Toriana Prime, you look at Joseph Charleston, you look at Christian Williams, you look at Nathaniel Pete, you look at any of the guys that we brought into the portal, they weren't super great their first year. They got better once they got into their second year. So even if you have experience, you're still throwing them in with a brand new set of guys on a brand new team, learning a brand new system. Yes, you need portals to plug holes, but you always need to build through high school, specifically on the lines, offensive line, defensive line. Those guys need to be developed by your program. And I would say that the portal is important, but high school recruiting is probably still the most important thing. Quentin, what are your thoughts?
I completely agree. I think the new age of the portal has maybe thrown off opinions on the value of high school recruiting. Yes, because teams are more able to get transfers than ever before legally. That's a big part of it too. Holes can be plugged in a different way. High school recruiting will always matter. I'm not one to say definites or make a lot of guarantees, but high school recruiting will always matter. I think about employment, outside of the game of football, just for anybody. What if you were just switching year after year, new job after new job? It's difficult to build a lot of skills and a lot of traits that you would otherwise if you stuck at a job for an extended period of time. Now, I am less qualified to say that than a lot of people because I'm not even 21 years old yet, and I am not officially in the workforce. But bouncing around jobs, that doesn't seem like a great thing in terms of keeping continuous relationships.
Continuous health coverage, by the way.
Continuous benefits,
Yeah.
health coverage and all. And so I also think high school recruiting, I'm not sure how related this is to, the value of it, but I think it means something that Mizzou was able to get, I believe it was 17 guys in the 25 class from 10 different states.
Yeah.
Including Maryland and Demarion Folks.
Yeah.
I believe going back to whenever Rivals started tracking recruiting in 2000, no one from Maryland had ever committed to Mizzou. And I mean, people in this area don't really commit to the SEC period. I think dating back to like 2004, less than like 15% of 3 stars and up go to SEC schools. Around here, it is mostly Maryland, Penn State, West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Virginia, throw some Boston colleges in there. Not a whole lot of SEC going on around here. And then Matt Zallers, obviously, is from Pennsylvania. It's not very close to Mizzou. And so, I mean, you're going to recruit your Missouris, you're going to recruit your Texases, your Illinois, especially
Florida,
considering St. Louis is now Florida.
Yeah.
Some Tennessees, East Coast. I think the fact that Mizzou is able to reach over here, I think that speaks levels to the national prominence that it's gained. Eli Drinkwitz explicitly mentioned that in his presser after the recruiting class had been signed. And so to go back to Anthony's original question, does high school recruiting matter? Yes, it definitely does. For all the reasons we just explained, even as the transfer portal takes a bigger role in team building.
And yeah, Tigo, I mean, yes, Corey Flagg was an exception. You're absolutely right. What about Colorado? Just as a team, portaled everybody, like 60 players they portaled in last year, and they stunk. And then year 2, they were better. Like that's just
think about the concept of college. Like colleges portal in kids all the time. After your 3, 4, 5 years, however long you're at that college, you feel a sense of connectivity to that school and to whatever values they try to instill in you. And I'm not saying transferring is a bad thing. This is an old man yelling at clouds. But I'm saying for all the reasons we just explained, being able to commit to a school early, develop in that system, and then be ready by year 2 or 3, that will always hold some sort of significant value, even in today's age.
Yeah. Well, a couple shows ago, I went through all the teams who were considered the portal champs, right? Especially for this year and how they did. And, Ole Miss didn't make a playoff. Mizzou didn't make a playoff. Miami did not make the playoff. Like these teams that went in portal heavy, I was like, oh God, their chips are all in. They're gonna make a run. They didn't get it. So like you do need the teams that are in there are ones who did a lot of home growing. That's part of it. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned it. Missouri has, now I'm counting their current roster plus the incoming high school transfer class. So bear with me here, but they have, 29 kids from the state of Missouri on scholarship. And then the next 21 states, they have 21 states that are at 64 players, right? So like you've got California, Alabama, Connecticut, Indiana, Maryland, Mississippi, Nebraska, New Jersey, and Wisconsin all have one scholarship player on Mizzou. That's nuts. That's a lot of states.
It was Don Farrow that refused to recruit out of Missouri, right?
Yes. Yeah. But that was also the World War II. So, yeah.
Wow. That's still how times have changed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's your recruiting budget used to be the gas that you put into your car, and you'd go to the whatever high schools that you knew and then pick the kids out. And, unless you were Notre Dame, who just pulled every Catholic, every Irish and Polish Catholic kid from the country because they knew who you were, you just recruited like the 200-mile circle around your campus. And that was it, if you're lucky. So, different times, man. Different times. It's why Virginia Tech did so well with keeping the Tidewater kids around. And now that's not happening. It's why Miami was able to fence off the state of Miami and make those runs. And now they can't anymore. It's just you can't hide. You can't hide from anybody. So, Yeah, no, I don't know how we got to that, but yeah. Oh yeah, the question from Anthony. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Anthony. You have sent us down many rabbit holes. I
We
enjoyed
did.
it. I
Yeah, no,
enjoyed
it's
it.
good.
Yeah.
And then right before we hit play, we had another commit from the transfer portal, a guy named Landon Kitchens, which I love that last name, Kitchen. You don't get a lot of Kitchens around here, but Landon Kitchen.
We're gonna miss the Cook Kitchen crossover. That would have been cool.
Why do you give me your hardest battles?
Sorry to damper your evening.
It's all right.
I just realized that.
Damn. Yeah. Well, that's okay. Landon's from Huntsville, Missouri, which, if you know your geography, is like, an hour. I think it's right outside Moberly, north of Columbia. You want to take 63, the scenic route, and then go west for a little bit. And once you get to Moberly, Huntsville's out there. 1,000 people. If you sneeze, you kind of miss it, but that's where he's from. And he has been playing at Northwest Missouri State. Now, again, if you know your local geography, your local school history, Northwest Missouri State was actually pretty damn good. Now, this was, God, at this point, it's probably 10 years ago because I'm old. But they had a coach named Adam Durrell who took over in 2011, maybe 12, and then led them to 3 national championships is what I believe they did. Now, Adam left in 2016, and a guy named Rich Wright took over, and they kept winning double-digit games, but kept getting bounced in the playoffs. So they're not the power that they used to be, but the echoes are still there, not too far away. And Landon Kitchen, as a defensive lineman, he is 6'7", 270 pounds. That is just a giant dude. He plays defensive line, and he is transferring to Mizzou. Now, I have not seen any tape on this guy. I heard a little bit that he might be committing. Didn't do my homework. Do you have anything on this guy? Can you save us from analysis here?
Yeah. Not just from Huntsville, Missouri, the pride of Western High School.
There you go.
Do you remember 2010's Western High School to Mizzou football star? Well, star at Western, not at Mizzou. Sort of at Mizzou. Depends on how you think about it.
2010.
2010's, like the decade.
Western. Tyler Hunt?
Yeah.
Hey!
Tyler Hunt.
Yes.
Multi-sport star at Western High School.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was like Cody Schrader light before Cody Schrader.
Yeah. We all wanted him to be Cody Schrader because he kept getting snaps and he never happened, but yeah.
No, carrying on the Western legacy, Mr. Kitchen. Believe rated a 2-star at a high school, according to 24/7 Sports. As you said, Northwest Missouri State, very good lower division school. So much so that the New England Patriots under Bill Belichick took a player from Northwest Missouri State. That was back in 2022, Sam Roberts in the 6th round. If you're getting taken by Bill Belichick, who does his small school homework, we'll say, and has done his small school homework for a very long time. I believe in that draft, they started out with Cole Strange from the vaunted Chattanooga Mocs.
Hell yeah.
That happened. And I also think they had, Pierre Strong. Yeah. From South Dakota State.
Yeah.
That same draft.
Yeah.
Northwest Missouri State, definitely very good at the lower division level. Not sure how much he's going to contend for snaps. He was pretty productive for Northwest Missouri State last year. Not sure how that's going to translate to the Division I level. I would love to say he's going to pull something like a Jared Verse going from Albany to Florida State and still dominating, but the FCS, even so, is still a higher level for Northwest Missouri State. And so I'm really not sure at this point what his role is going to look like, but it is cool that Western High School now has another alumni on Mizzou football.
And 6'7", 270, you can take a block. I can tell you that.
That you can work with that.
Yeah,
you can work with that.
Yeah. Stranger things have happened, man. We've been here for Cody Schrader. Okay, like I'm not going to write anybody off. It's just
he was. I believe he was something like 7th or 8th on the depth chart.
Yeah,
when he got to Mizzou, something crazy.
Yeah, and it just made him stronger. So we'll see. And he's got multiple years to play. He's played 2 years at Northwest. So we'll see what happens there. But that's all the news for today. I mean, something might have happened while we were recording. I don't know, but
I have not seen anything new.
Okay, good.
Checking my Twitter right now, I have not seen anything since we started recording. There is what's funny, I've seen and listened to so many podcasts where they discuss news, specifically sports, and then something happens right after they're done recording.
Of
So
course. Yeah.
there is very much a non-zero chance that is the case today. And if it happens, I can say I called my shot.
There you go. There you go. Protect yourself. That's good. Well, we appreciate Quentin jumping in. He's doing the dual sport thing right now, going from basketball to football. So we appreciate you code switching for us and talking about the bouncy ball that moves funny. You did great, even all the way in Maryland. That's fantastic. But that is going to be our show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or you can rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter at Matt and H. Edwards. He's at Quentin Corpuel. And of course, you can follow the Rock M flagship at Rock M Nation and our podcasting outlet at Rock M Radio. And if you're on Blue Sky, you mess around with Blue Sky, you can find me there. Quentin, are you on Blue Sky? You do that?
No, I haven't made the transition yet. I'm not sure if I'm gonna. This has happened like 3 or 4 times where everybody panics that Twitter is going to be gone, or they're angry with Twitter for understandable reasons. I have not made the jump yet. I probably won't unless pretty much everybody does. So I guess I just outed myself as a follower, not a leader in that sense. So yeah, I'm still Quentin Corpuel on Twitter. But if anything drastic happens, I will make the switch to Blue Sky.
Very good. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.